or similar be delivered to their apartment.
Welcome everyone to our Tuesday night evening Zoom chat. I have with me tonight our special guest, Jojo SeeLife. She's here to tell us all about common law or the constitutional common law. So I'm going to pin you, Jo, and then allow you to tell us more about yourself. And I'm sure we're going to have lots of questions. So thank you everyone for joining us tonight. And over to you, Jojo.
Thanks, Kelly. Well, just a brief introduction. I've been searching for the solution for quite some time, and I've spent time with the Yolngu people in Northern Territory. I've been a school teacher, various things, but I realised after doing a lot of searching, like everyone's probably been doing, is that we don't have a justice system, and the answer has to be in law, and somewhere where we're not being disclosed what is law, because we're seeing legislations change overnight, causing harm, loss, fraud, and it's certainly not contributing to keeping the peace. So eventually I discovered that there is a constitution that we don't know about. It's considered a secret law. It's been kept secret from our learning. There's no way you can find it in universities, TAFEs, schools. I mean, in some, over in England, they do talk about the constitution, and there is never a true full disclosure of what it actually really is. So constitution being the only constitution we have is called Magna Carta 1215. Now, it sounds like it's an ancient 800-year-old constitution, but it's what all the acts on the constitution follow down to in a legislation. So an act is, you've got the 1901 Constitution Act. They
want to go out, Kega?
Sorry, Michelle. I'm just going to.
I don't want to see if you want to go out.
Mute you, Michelle.
And an act is in the Constitution an act of treason. So to change the Constitution, because it was sealed by King John in 1215, to actually change it is an act of is treason. So that's why we're living in treason today, because everything that we are told about what, they call law, when it's really legislation, it's the legal system, it's the inversion of law. And that's why we're in tyranny basically today. And so in King John's time, there was a lot of tyranny. He was doing really bad things, and the people were able to come to an agreement. They used the barons that was their job to represent the people, the people's will, and they were able to get him to, under duress, the King John, to seal the Magna Carta. And then from that following year, they have been committing treason ever since. They've been trying to take out the people's protection clauses that have been in the Constitution, and that being Article 61, which is protection for the people, the common people, or the collective people's will in sovereignty, self-rulership. And then also we've got other clauses in the Magna Carta which talk about a trial by jury. Now, most people will have never heard of a trial by jury. You would have heard of a grand jury, or and that's not the same. Trial by jury is made up of the people as judges, as opposed to a judge that's employed by the government, and quite likely a Freemason. And there is no justice in that system because it's a very biased system. So when you have a trial by jury, though, with just randomly people that are working under law, that are chosen, and they work on the consciousness of do no harm, cause no loss, commit no fraud, and keep the peace. So that's the guiding for making decisions on a person if they're guilty or not guilty. Okay, so now, constitution, grasping that concept, because it's very foreign. We don't, you know, we haven't been able to piece that together. So it's made by the people, for the people, with protection clauses in it. And the protection clauses, that being for our sovereignty, our right of self-rulership. Then the trial by jury is the justice system. That's a holistic, it's actually a trinity. You've got the trial by jury as one. The second one, you've got annulment by jury, which is taking out faulty legislation or faulty laws that when someone's convicted or when they're guilty, then that means that law was faulty. So that's taken out. So eventually it's stripped away. And then the third one, which you'll never hear about, is common law private prosecution. And that's where everyone for free can prosecute in the community, can prosecute for damages. So that's the holistic mechanism that then puts a stop. So for instance, if you were to have some of the, you know, the Dan Andrews or the ScoMos come before the trial of the people, then it needs to be a unanimous guilty. And then with that guilty verdict, then the decision for a penalty. Now, the penalty can be only of equal what they've done. So if they've killed people, killed a nation, then the gallows or that can be a penalty, which is another new sort of foreign concept for Australians. However, that's basically how the Constitution works. And so we've got Magna Carta 1215. Then there was an acts that were made, and the Parliament uses the Magna Carta 1297 Act. And that's where all legislation stems from. So that's, yeah, basically law and legal aren't the same. So law is not changeable. Doesn't matter, it's not time. It's like, you know, the laws of physics, the laws of nature. They don't change. It doesn't matter what place or where you are, it's still the same. Whereas legislation and legal is the opposite, you know, it changes. So that's not law. Yeah, okay, so that's it in a nutshell. Now there's a process that's been refined. So in 2001, actually March the 23rd, 2001, there was a Treaty of Nice that was signed by Tony Blair, which was the EU, which was treasonous. And that gave the barons their job to invoke Article 61 from the Magna Carta 1215, because there was nothing else that could be used to call him out on it. So they actually then went through the due protocols. So from that time on, Magna Carta 1215 has been the law for all Commonwealth past and present countries. We just didn't know about it. We haven't been told about it because obviously the media and the politicians are never going to disclose this, because this shuts them down. This basically shuts all criminal behaviour down, all things that takes away all their power and control over the people. And it's really the people that should be the ruling. They're the ones that should be basically telling them what to do, and not them telling people what to do. So yeah, so there's so from there, from the 2001, there was a lady by the name of Elizabeth Beckett, who was the daughter of a Supreme Court judge, and she mentored a man by the name of David Robinson. Now, David Robinson spent the next 20 years refining the lawful process and the notices. So for 20 years, he hit the road, and he was able to drive unregistered. He was able to not have a license, pay taxes. He was able to uncontract, and that was just him, one man alone. And then he shared his knowledge with a lot of people in England on his way. And they eventually had a group of people that seized back buildings in 2014. So he demonstrated that with this authority, the highest authority in law, you're able to, as a people, to take back what is ours, which was always been ours. There's simply supposed to be administrators that are in there, but they're not. They've taken control of it, so we need to take those buildings back. Once we do that, then we can have a trial by jury, which is called redress, and that is reinstate the rule of law again, so we can have a holistic justice system again. And so he showed us to do it, but he needed numbers. He needed, because it's no point just having a group of people living in a building, you know, because they literally walked into the building. So you need communities, people across all of Australia that are aware of the lawful rights. So in the end, there'll be the lawful people and there'll be the lawless people. So the people that are acting under law with the intent to uphold the law, that being cause no harm, loss, fraud, and keep the peace, those 4 main things, they'll be guided by that with their actions and honourable. And then there'll be the lawless, and the lawless are the ones who are not acting and not recognising the Constitution. So the ones who publicly deny Magna Carta 1215 are called seditious. That's sedition. Public denial of the Constitution is sedition and is full asset stripping and imprisonment for life. And treason is as well full asset stripping and imprisonment for life, or gallows if they've killed people. Murdered, actually, because it needs to be with malicious intent. So if someone had an accident and they killed them, that wouldn't be malicious intent. So and the notices that David developed, the 5 notices, were evidence that the people, the lawless ones, or the criminals that are causing whatever, you know, harm, loss, fraud, not keeping the peace, they get sent these notices with proof, concrete evidence in it that you are acting under law, and you can prove that in those notices. And then they are required to prove that they are lawful in their demands of what they're asking from you. So if they give you a fine, police, you know, we know that the police, they call themselves constables, but that is complete fraud, because they're actually police officers, which is foreign military controlled corporations. And if they're claimed to be a constable, they are required to show a constable's oath. They have to carry a constable's oath that they are working for the people and not for a corporation.
So, Jo, can I ask a question there? So what I'm understanding is that for real change to take place, then people need to take back this knowledge first of all, and then they need to know how to apply it so that we can apply it as a body of people. But can we as individuals use this knowledge well, I guess David did as an example. And how will it work if we're on our own and we, you know, like we run into some trouble? How can we use this knowledge going forward?
Yeah. So you by knowing that you are lawful and that they are not, and in that knowing there comes an authority and an empowerment, and the minute it lands into your body, because this is just the first time today, it's going to go around in circles, and I've got links for you to watch, information that is very hard to find, okay, and unless you're sort of guided to it, you're going to come across all these misdirection on YouTube, they'll put a little bit of truth in there, but a lot of lies, like a lot of misdirection. And that's what this is all about. They're creating more and more all the time, disinformation and misinformation as well. So So finding accurate sources, and on my chat I have documents, I have templates you can have to put outside your home if you become, if you start acting under law, so that if police ever do come around to your house and try and force vaccinate or do whatever it is in the future that they will try and do, they will know that you're lawful, and that they then they have no authority. And what's happened in the past is people that have had these experiences, the police end up, all the notices get sent to the police that come around or unlawfully arrest and do things like that. And it goes all the way up the hierarchy to the MPs, and then heads roll on the bottom because they know, and they don't want to be served the notices because they know they'll be stripped of everything they own, and at least imprisonment for life. And it will happen. It's just a matter how quickly we can educate people, because there's no formal education process at the moment. We're still developing an organised way, or people are organising in communities now, and so it's trying to get lots of people, like even people that can learn this information and then share it with their community. That's what we're really trying to achieve, is so that everyone comes up to speed and everyone has the same knowledge. Everyone has the information and know how to access it and know how to use it if they come under attack.
So Daniela has got an example, and can you use the Constitution of Common Law in such things as a speeding fine?
Yes.
And then how would we do that? Okay,
so first you take the oath, and that's your intent to be lawful, to act, to act with a conscience of law, and that's a process where you register it through go to the post office, and the registering of it is evidence. That means it's put in there, and then you keep the receipts. You take pictures of it, take photocopies of it. And that's what goes in your notices. So you take a photocopy of your wet ink oath, and it requires 3 witnesses. I've got a template. I've actually got a picture of it. I could probably share. But basically, it's an A4 template, and it's you need three witnesses. You go to the post office, you register it and you send it to yourself. You can either send it to the barons, but the barons are gone AWOL. So the other choice is to send it to yourself, and that way you've logged it, and it doesn't really matter about if you've sent it to the barons or to yourself. It's the main thing is keeping that tracking number as proof that you have sent that document and you've got that evidence. Then once that's done, then there's the 5 notices of demand. They're called demand notices. And the first one is conditional acceptance, notice of conditional acceptance. And you, again, have 3 people that sign it, or you can write PP before their names. That means they've agreed for their name to be used on the notices. You just in place of the signature. And then you attach a photocopy of your oath and the receipt with that notice to prove that you're lawful. And then you send it off through registered post the same way as you do with the oath process. And you do that 10 days apart. Each notice is 10 days apart. So you go notice 1, 10 days apart, notice 2, 10 days apart, and so forth for the 5 notices to the stop. Now you require the person's full name. So with a speeding fine, for instance, you'll have a police officer on there with, let's call him John Doe, and he works at, let's say, Parramatta Police Station. So you use Parramatta Police Station's physical address, not a post office, a physical address, and it gets delivered to there, and you just fill in the notices. It's a template, so it's really easy. All you have to do is just fill in your name and their details in the templates after you've printed them off. And that's it. I know people who have had court hearings and they've only done one or 2 notices, and they missed the court hearing. They didn't go attend because once you're under oath, you don't ever need to step foot into the court again, because that's like a mafia court. So you wouldn't want to go in there and risk harm or loss with the fraud. So you just send the notices. So if you've got a court case, you send the notices off to the judge's name, full name, and their place of physical address. And then, yeah, the people I know never heard anything about it again since. They never got any follow-up or any penalties or anything. It's just all dropped. They go silent.
And if it's a camera, you know, that you caught on camera, same thing.
Same thing, yeah.
Okay.
It's all fraudulent. That's all corporation.
And if the process about voting, says Deb, what if we, yeah.
So voting is the opposite to democracy, even though that's what we've been fed, because it's democracy is common people, or demos is common people, and crassy is rulership, so the people's rulership. Now, in voting, you're actually voting for not people's rulership. So in a way, voting is treason, a form of treason. If people are aware of it, they're not knowingly not doing it, but it's a very, you know, they've orchestrated. They know who's going to win. They know it's all planned. We've got no chance. It's like being in the court system. So again, if you choose not to vote, then and they want to send you a fine, then you fine that person on that fine and you send them the notices, and then that clears, and the notices say in them to go, they've got to be forwarded up to the highest level, the most senior level. So everyone from the bottom up gets this same notice, goes all the way up. And eventually that educates them on constitution law. And it also is very scary by the fourth notice. It's high treason. So the fourth notice is high treason, and the penalties for high treason are quite severe. So they're risking not only their jobs and being transferred, but they're also risking all their assets and imprisonment. So they don't. Once they know about Article 61, Magna Carta 1215, they'll tend to leave you alone, especially if you know what you're doing.
So do you believe there's any that the people can vote for the minor parties and kick the top parties out? Do you think that that's a possibility?
No, because sovereignty means self-rulership. So and the common or the collective people, we are sovereigns, right? We are sovereign people, whether people realize it or not. We are all sovereign, and we've got the right to rule. It's our rulership. That's what a democracy is. That's what the Constitution's all about, true democracy. And by voting for any of them, all you're doing is voting to keep in slavery. So you're keeping the inversion, the fiction, which are the politicians that are corporate owned, keeping them in power. Whereas if you reverse it, and it's like the people have the power, and we are self-organising communities. We've demonstrated that. Right here now is self-organising people. Canberra had the Epic Camp. You know, they didn't need any government to organise that for them. It all just happened. People from all around over Australia were sending food and money and things. So we know we're capable of self-organising. We don't need rock stars. We don't need heroes. We just need knowledge. We need information and knowledge, and it's been hidden, and we haven't been taught the basics that we really should have been taught in school. We should have been taught the most fundamental things of what is law and what is constitution.
So, okay, so there's some other questions that have come up around fines. So attending court, so Sean said he has to go to court on the 21st of April about a protest that he received a $3,000 fine. So really wants to know what can he do about that too.
Yep, send the notices. So once you come under the oath and you know that's something that lands for you, then you send the notices and that's it. You wait for redress when we have the trial by jury, and those notices then that are sent to those particular people, they then get arrested and put before the court, and they are then tried to you know, guilty or not guilty verdict. But the notices, if you do the 5 notices, generally that's the evidence that they were warned and they didn't stop. So it's like a but they may stop as well. So when you send the notices and they don't, like, so for the people I know that have had court cases and they've sent the notices and it's stopped, then that goes well for them because they stopped harassing and extorting money. So but if they continue and they continue to harass and extort, there's nothing they can do because you won't go to court, and you send them the notices. So every new person that pops up, they'll try and, you know, if you're in a really dire situation and you're having trouble with child protection services, for instance, you know, family disputes and things like that, that can get really quite messy. So they'll send different police around, and they're usually rookies out of the academy. So they've actually now, the senior sergeants know the Article 61. I've got a video of a lady who was pulled over for not wearing a seat belt, and the officer came over to her, give her a fine, and she said, before you proceed, I'm under Article 61, Magna Carta 1215. And he straight away turned around and walked away and drove off. Couldn't drive off quick enough. So they know that it's becoming an education process, and the top haven't told the bottom in the hierarchical system, but it's slowly filtering down. I've done videos actually attentioning police officers to ask their superiors about this. They need to be told about this. They've been hidden, like the information has been hidden. So yeah, so it's usually the new ones that are actually doing so. That'll increase more and more and more as time goes on. In a very short period of time, I've seen a massive exponential growth in knowledge in this.
Jo, what's involved in taking the oath?
Okay, so the oath is downloading the Oath of Allegiance document, and I've got that on Jojo SeeLife in Telegram, and you can find it on Practical Lawful Dissent international groups. They've got files there. It's a little bit confusing there, and so I've sort of made it organised, and I've got a Discord channel that is really organised. It's got step 1, step 2, step 3. So I've really refined it on the Discord even more, so I can send you a link to join that. And so you download the 1 A4 page, you get 3 witnesses. I just used 3 post office employees because they weren't related to me. They were over 18 and they hadn't committed a criminal offence or haven't been convicted of a criminal conviction in 10 years. So that's just the 3 requirements for the witnesses, and they happily witnessed me sign and date the oath. They then printed their names, signed it and dated it, and then I asked for a photocopy, or I actually got 10 photocopies done in the post office then, and I put one of the photocopies into a registered envelope, addressed it to myself, peeled off the sender sticker on the front and stuck it on the back where the receipt is, and then they stamped the registered envelope, and then they ripped off the receipt on the back of that registered envelope, and then they stapled the printed receipt that I paid for it together, and that's what I used to then take photographs of and to scan as the evidence to go with my photocopy. When I send the notices off, I use a copy of that.
Okay, so I'm just scanning through to see if there's any more questions. Tonya says, I don't think the police know enough yet. I used Article 61 and was arrested. I'm due in court in 2 weeks. Too late to do all the notices now.
Hang on. Sorry, did you let the police know you're under Article 61, Magna Carta 1215? The person that asked that question?
Tonya, do you want to come off mute and have a chat with Joe? Where is she?
Hi, yes, I did. Look, I was a bit, being a real novice, I think I had like smaller notice that you actually usually take with you in the car, but I read that out and then told the police officer that I don't consent and I won't be contracting with you, and then walked away. And he left me alone, and he went on to other people. And because he was trying to get everyone's names, and it was the first week of lockdown for us, and we were doing Tai Chi in the park. And anyway, so he ended up coming back to me, and so I was rummaging around in my bag, and he was talking to me, and I ignored him because I already told him that I wasn't contracting with him anyway. And then he said, oh, so you're ignoring me? And I stood up and I said, I've already told you I won't be contracting with you today. And then that's when he became really aggressive, the way he spoke to me. And I didn't realise there were 2 police officers behind me, and they both grabbed me. And I was put back in the paddy wagon and taken off to the cop shop.
Wow.
Yeah, so I don't think we signed the oath. Probably almost 6 months ago with the group that they've got going in the Lake Macquarie area of New South Wales. And we were sort of, I think it sort of like fell by the wayside. We've just been like, floating around trying to work out what to do and that sort of thing. So, yeah, anyway, so I'm sort of like ready to go to court in 10 days. It's on the 14th. So, in another 11 days' time, we're lucky we've got a lawyer who is awake and was an ex-police prosecutor. So I'm sort of like actually using their system, hopefully against them, but unfortunately it's going to cost me as well. But I'm going to go after that police officer. I didn't want to do anything beforehand because I live on my own and I don't want to be harassed. And so I'm going to go after him and his insurance as soon as the court case is done. That's all I can think of doing. So yeah. And he also put on my the court notice and that he put me down. I was actually a teacher, but he's put me down as a protester for my profession. And he also referred to me as, I was talking in a manner of a sovereign person, and I was highly likely to reoffend, and I was a danger to the community.
Yeah.
Anyway.
No.
So that's that.
That's really unfortunate, Tonya. He identified you as using free man on the land, which is still lawless. And so it's open slather because they can still contract with you because you're not outside. So what they do is they see that they really target people that are like you, which is like in the middle. You're like, so you're learning the truth, but you're still not using the law, if you know what I mean. What's happened is, and so they can make money out of you. So what they do is like they really love getting people that are awake like that because they're trying to target you, and they can actually make good money in the courts. They take you to courts, they arrest you, they make money doing all that because they're accessing your bonds. So that's why we never, under Article 61, we never go into court. We don't need to. If you were to have said to him, I'm under Article 61 Magna Carta 1215 under the law, if you're able to, there's a little tort that they will be having to pay for your time. and you'll be compensated and different things like there's a little spiel. I've got a little caution card, it's called, and you can either give it to them to read or you can read it out to them.
That's what I use stuff, I think, but it's the, I don't know, if you go on their website, there was a smaller one that you read out, and then there was the one that's got like, it's sort of like a round circle around it, but it's not exactly the same. It's like I picked up the wrong one, but I think I was like really nervous at the time.
Oh, okay. So you were using Article 61, but you didn't actually know what you were using. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, probably not really.
Yeah.
Like now that you actually sort of say, you've spoken about it. So even though I had signed my oath, I've done all of that.
Oh, you have.
To myself.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Sorry.
It's interesting. Like they still arrested me.
Yeah.
Okay,
what you've gone through is very common in the beginning. I've known a number of people. They've mixed the free man on the land with the Magna Carta. Even my mentor did the same thing, and he's got exceptional knowledge now, but he did the same thing, and that's when they go after you. He said because he mixed the two together, they identify that as you're a new person with this knowledge, they basically know that it's a very fine wording, and they know the free man on the land words, the contracting, contract. Well, that's the.
I thought I shouldn't have said that.
Yeah, that was a giveaway.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was a giveaway. So, and that would have provoked him as well. So, yeah. So if you just stick to the pure Magna Carta 1215 words, and there's quite a few different documents. I'm happy to help you. Like if you want to call me sometime and we'll have a chat, and I'll send you some videos as well that'll really help clarify those things, so that next time you'll have more confidence and in your refined words. Yeah. And that's what it is, yeah. So
it's really important, isn't it? What the words that you use, and then the manner in which you use them in, so that you know exactly what you're talking about, and they are really, then they can take a step back because you're in charge, and you have shown that you have the sovereignty and the knowledge to back it up. So that was a really good example. Thank you for
that was excellent, Tanya. I'm really happy to hear you're under oath and you're at that level. So it's just refining now, and we'll still get them. You can still send these notices, and you won't have to go to court.
Well, even though I'm due in court on the 14th of March.
Yep, send them the notices. Yep, and I'll make sure you get the correct notices. I'm not sure which ones you're using or what website. What website have you been using?
Oh, geez, look, it's like pretty well 6 months ago, and when they thought they were going to, I don't know whether you were aware of it, but what was it? What was her name? Jackie
Phoenix.
Yes. And you know how they were going to, it was all going to go down, and we're going to take over the courts and that. Do you remember when that was happening?
Oh, that was Sandy Crack and Wayne Glue, Velvet Revolution in Australia. That was because Jackie.
No, this was Magna Carta, and this was Magna Carta, and we were sort of like, the guy that were actually, he was the one that basically taught us about it. He had everything ready to go, and we were going to go and take over the local court here. But I had already been arrested at the time, and same with another girl, she was arrested at the same time. So we actually thought that it was a bit dangerous for us to actually even get involved in it. And I think Jackie Phoenix, I don't know if she went off the rails a bit. People have suggested that she's got a drinking problem. So I'm not, I can't even remember the site, but
I think Joe will be able to help you, Tanya. I think Joe will be able to help you go when you get to that court.
Yeah.
We'll have to move on because your voice is very echoey, and it's very hard for the other in the room to be able to hear what you're saying very clearly. So I want to,
Yes.
yeah, no, thank you for sharing your story, though. That was very helpful for all us to see, you know, how you can really still work with this with the Magna Carta to find the way out. So
Yeah.
thank you for that, Joe. Tell us with
How do I
this.
find out, Joe? Sorry.
Yeah, Joe,
How do I
I'll
find
make
out?
sure Joe puts in all the links and everything in so that you'll be able to contact her, and it'll also go into the My Self Reliance page, so we'll have all those links there. No worries at all. Yeah. And you can even send a direct message to Joe now so that she's got your contact details as well. Anyone who wants to do that, yeah, just send a direct message to Joe so she's got you. So now that's a really good example. But so moving forward then, and I can see how this is going to make a difference, especially if people are looking around my circles. There's lots of talk about moving into off-grid communities, and how to set that up is quite a minefield, but I can see that using the Magna Carta as a basis for you know, creating futures in small communities, this is, you know, very popular. So how does it work in big cities though? How can we bring, because we do rely on the government, and I'm very big about moving out of systems, right? Moving off of the system for education and you know, the finances and all the systems. But when it comes to things that the government provide, it's very hard if you're living in a city to move out of all those systems. So can you participate still under their law whilst not being under their law? So, you know, tell us, how do you see that going?
Great question, Kelly. So when you take the oath, that in theory ends all contracts with the fiction. Okay, so, and if you choose to contract, say for instance, you know, register your car because you don't want to have loss, like, you know, car get impounded or, you know, cause harm in any way, then you just simply can contract and you put V.C. which is under duress before you sign your name on things. So it's under duress. You're doing it because you don't want to cause harm or loss, fraud, keep the peace. So yeah, it's just either VC or V.C. before you sign anything.
Wow, okay. Thank you for that.
I think it's Coctus or something. You can look it up on DuckDuckGo. Yeah, it's under duress. So that allows you to, you know, because theoretically, it's not the government's, it's the people's anyway. So all the services, Centrelink, they're just purely administrators of the people's, you know, trust funds. And bonds, and so all the services, even electricity, people have had massive electricity bills and things, and able to use the Magna Carta 1215 because it's all prepaid already. So yeah, all the amenities, people have used it in rates, not paying rates, and uncontracting from councils. There's a group of people I know of who that actually had bought land, and the council took it off them and charges them $1,600 each for the land in rates a year. And so they just had jack of it. That was just like blatant robbery. So that they saw that as robbery, whereas it's actually been robbery all the way along. It's just most of the time we don't see it. So yeah, and until everyone learns this stuff, we've got to sort of painstakingly sort of try and live in, you know, one foot in one world, one foot in the other world, until all the knowledge is accumulated that we can all act in harmony, in unison together.
Can you how's that word? Come out of that contract, break that contract, but then still use their services for, so Yeah, I'm just a little bit confused about that. You want to separate yourself, but you can still come under the services. So you can still use things like Centrelink, and you
Yeah,
can still access
yeah,
those.
yeah,
Right.
yeah. You can use all the services because it's the people.
Have a driver's license. Okay, so if I had, we're looking at buying a piece of land, and we don't want, the council is going to say, well, you can only have one dwelling on 300 acres, or you can't have multiple dwellings and all these kinds of things. How do you get around that? How do you get around this?
Well, in theory, you can use the Magna Carta 1215. And it's like, it means that you're going to have paperwork administration of sending notices, because if they give you a hard time, like most of the time you might get away with it. Like if you don't have a nasty neighbour that sort of, makes trouble for you, then they probably wouldn't even know because you're on land. But if they did find out and they started telling you got to tear it down, then you would send the notices to each of those people that was sending those demands to you, and they'd have no authority. They can't do anything because you don't go to court. They can't ever arrest you. If police ever come around, you just don't answer the door. It's like the mafia coming around. You wouldn't answer the door to a mafia type of thing. You just ignore them. And the more people do this, so for instance, if it came to a period of time where you can't afford to register your car, like, so you've got no other choice, well then now you know how to use the Magna Carta. So it's like, well, I've got to use it for my own protection because I can't afford it. I don't want to be locked up, or whatever excuse they want to do. So there'll come a time where people will have to use Article 61 Magna Carta 1215. At the moment, people can still kind of get away with it, and they sort of pay the fines because they don't want to go through the painful process of sending notices and being fearful. But once you do it once and you see it works, it's like liberating. It's like, wow, it's like really powerful stuff. It's like, and then you just go to town. Then you just like, yeah, all the time, anything that comes up, bang, 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 tolls, bang, 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 it's whatever.
Awesome. So, and we'll come back to that. Mary Lou just asked, I've taken the lawful oath with Wayne, only had one witness. Will she need to get another one or a new one?
Okay, now Wayne's using the 1297 Act. So it's not lawful, unfortunately. It's an act of treason. It's not the Magna Carta 1215. So that won't have any authority in law. It's getting close though, but it's no bananas. It's not quite there.
Okay, and then share with us some more, like, how have you used it? You said it, bang, 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 it goes off, you use it here and there. What's happened for you since you've started using it?
For me, have we got anyone religious here? Anyone religious?
Yeah.
Anyone? Okay. I've used it on Jehovah's Witnesses. Sent it to the highest author up there for my own various reasons. They weren't declaring to their people about the vaccines, so the people were thinking it was all right to get vaccinated. And in fact, the Bethel headquarters, I've got a daughter who's been baptised, you see, so I'm very protective of her. And she was going to get vaccinated, and she said, it's all right, And so I basically sent them a notice and I gave it to them. I called them up and I said that they'll have blood on their hands, and that there's no justification for experimentation on people, and you should be warning your people. Yeah. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
What happened after that? Really interesting.
Well, I don't listen to their meetings. I don't listen to the information, but I know my daughter she's changed her mind about getting vaccinated. So that was a good outcome. That's what I've sort of hoped for. And it's now fashionable. I do believe they now say that no one is to be judged if they don't get vaccinated. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Daniela said, once I have the oath in place, can they still suspend her license? They can't do that, can they? suspend her license?
Oh, no. So if you've done the oath, that they won't even know about it unless you send them personally the notices because they've demanded something from you. So no, I've still got my license. I did my oath after I had my license renewed. So when my license comes up for renewal, I'm going to have to wonder, am I going to do this again or not? You know, so at the moment I've got a car I haven't registered for 5 months. I'm going, oh, am I going to be brave and just like take off my number plates and start driving around unlicensed and set the example for everybody? Or am I going to be chicken and, you know, just do it? So yeah, I've got to work out, you know, which way I'm going to go. And I've just put it off, and I'm driving my partner's car, and he's not under oath. So yeah, just I am.
So that would mean if your license gets suspended, theoretically it doesn't matter because it's lawless anyway.
Yeah, that's right. The only thing is if they take my car off me, if they trash it or something, you know what I mean? That's the only risk I run. And then I'll have to wait to get compensation. And that could be, you know, as soon as we get redress and stuff like that. But yeah, so it's a, you know, it's an individual decision. It's your own individual, whatever you choose to do, and weigh up the, you know, if it can possibly cause you harm and loss to not do it, because it's not honourable if it's going to cause you harm or loss. So yeah, it would be a risk, but like I said, if I had no money to pay for my registration, I'd have no choice. I just would drive it around, and then I'd use that process then to do it.
So there's obviously lots and lots to learn still. So what we'll do is put all the links in the group. Do you have any links that you want to just pop into the chat group for those that are watching, Joe? And then I'll make sure that I grab those links and I'll put them into the My Self-Reliance and attach them to the video at the end.
Yep, the Discord one's a good one. Yep.
Great. And then Joe sent me a beautiful little clip. While she's getting that together, I just want to play the little clip for you that actually takes you back to a really great movie that Russell Crowe's in, where he's actually addressing King John about the Magna Carta. And so let's just watch that clip, and that'll give Joe a chance to put those links in. And if you have any questions, you can pop them into the chat as well. So let me just turn to that for you all. Okay, here it is here. All right, let me just turn my sound on. It's only a small view, so apologies for it won't be a big screen. Okay, here we go.
You're trying to build for the future. You must set your foundation strong. The laws of this land enslave people to its king. A king who demands loyalty but offers nothing in return. I have marched from France to Palestine and back. And I know, in tyranny lies only failure. You build a country like you build a cathedral, from the ground up. Empower every man, and you will gain strength.
Well, who could object to such reasonable words?
If your majesty were to offer justice, justice in the form of a charter of liberties, allowing every man to forage for his hearth, to be safe from conviction without cause or prison without charge, to work, eat and live on the sweat of his own brow, and be as many as he can, and that king would be great. It's liberty. Liberty by law.
Okay, so I hope that you could hear that and see that. It's a great little clip, so we'll pop that into the chat as well. So before we close up tonight, I'll just let you know that you can find more information on Jojo SeeLife. She has a channel on Telegram, and do follow there, because there's lots of information. People can ask questions, and someone else is going to ask a question that you have. So do follow her there, and also on Discord. And we'll add that to the chat. So thanks everyone for contributing. Any last words from you, Joe, before we wrap up tonight?
If you search DuckDuckGo Jojo SeeLife in Rumble, I've got 20 videos on there, and it's got what is Magna Carta and Article 61. It's got evidence of a man who saved his children from being taken by child protection when they were about to be taken, and after he sent the notices, it was dropped in 10 days. There's also misinformation, things that to look for, misdirections, and various other things that will help you, so that you really sort of understand the foundation, and you're able to speak with confidence with others and police. There's also documents to access as well to help you, in anything that you might come across.
Beautiful, thank you for that. Okay, so does anyone have any final questions? I might just end the recording here, and we can keep chatting afterwards. So thank you for watching if you're watching the recording, but most of all, thank you for joining us in the chat room. We've really appreciated you being here, and we will see you all next Tuesday.